I'm going to show you today what to do when your snowblower won't start. If you're watching this video, it's probably because your snowblower won't start. And I hope for you that you didn't wait until it's like negative 10 degrees out to actually fix it. Both of these snowblowers have almost the same engine and they have almost the same problem. What happened was the owners left gas in them for an extended period of time. If yours doesn't start, maybe you did the same thing. That's a common cause for small engines to not be able to start. So you watch my video and I can probably save you at least $100 by not having to take your snowblower to a small engine shop. Watch till the end and I'm going to save you some money. Let me show you really quickly what this one does. There's a good chance that this is going to be the same issue you have. What happens is I'm going to try and start it. It may start, and if it does, it's going to stop a few seconds later. Let me spare your time. It never starts. So I've worked on enough of these to just know, if you have a Tecumseh engine like this, where it's just been sitting a while, you know, in a while it could be 6 months, 9 months, a year, more, it's likely that in here is the carburetor. It just needs cleaned. This is a very common fix that I do for a lot of people. I'm not going to spend a lot of time trying to get this thing to start because I just know that's what it needs. It's usually easiest just to replace the thing because on Amazon you can usually get a carburetor for around $10. And for $10, I'm personally not going to waste the time to clean it. So keep watching and I'm going to show you how to replace this carburetor. You can use the same steps to take the carburetor off, clean it, and put it back on if you want to. But I really recommend just replacing it because of how cheap you can get a replacement. So what are the tools you're going to need? You're going to need a screwdriver, like a Phillips. We might need a flathead. You're going to need some pliers, maybe some needle nose pliers, and some basic wrenches, and that's all. You might also notice in all my small repair videos, I'm typically using DeWalt tools, but DeWalt's not my sponsor. Yet, unless they want to be. Hey DeWalt. So first we're going to start by taking off this shroud around the muffler and the carburetor. Next, in order to take this cover off, you're going to have to take this knob off of there. Might as well take the key out too. Your key might look different. John Deere's the only one that I've actually seen that has a real nice key. Others might be a cheap key or just a plastic insert. Also, because we got that key in there, there's going to be a ground wire here you're going to have to disconnect. So here's the carburetor. For the carburetor itself, like I mentioned, it's going to be easiest to replace it with a new one, so that's what we're going to do. Unfortunately, your carburetor could be a little bit different depending on the horsepower of engine you have. You're going to have to research that on your own. I actually happen to stock some of these carburetors because I fix so many of these snowblowers that I know what the common ones are and I just keep them. So that, I guess that's a little bit of tribal knowledge if you're into this thing. But anyhow, do some research on your own, figure out what carburetor you need. And it's very simple to replace. We're going to take off this primer hose here. On the back side there's the fuel hose from the gas tank. We're going to take off this mounting bracket for that shroud that we had there. Disconnect the assembly here for the choke. We're going to take off the governor spring up here. And then there's two nuts that we're going to remove.
Wait, so after...
So now that the carburetor is disconnected from the intake manifold, I had mentioned that we got to take off this linkage for the governor. So we're going to grab that with some needle nose pliers, and I'm going to twist the carburetor It's a little awkward, but you'll figure it out. Actually, I'm going to disconnect the fuel line here so I have more room to rotate the carburetor and disconnect those linkages. That's where you're going to use your pliers, loosen the clamp, push the hose off of that inlet there. There we go. Alright, don't go putting that new carburetor on yet. If that old carburetor was clogged up, it's probably because your gas was nasty. We want to drain out the old gas too. So I'm going to use this bucket, let the gas from this hose drain into it after I open up the fuel valve. Alrighty then, I drained out the old gas. Put in some new gas. Make sure when you have the new gas in there that it comes out the hose clean looking. That makes sure you flushed out all the stuff that probably clogged up your other carburetor. On the intake manifold, there's going to be a gasket here. Sometimes it's going to be hard to see because it's so skinny. You want to make sure that you get off the old gasket. There it is. Now obviously we want to make sure we put on the new one that should have came with the new carburetor. If you are reusing your carburetor, Try and keep this in good shape. Put it back on there if you can. If not, get some replacements. Alright, I've got my new one. I'm going to put it on there. Notice I did leave one of the bolts in for the carburetor. That'll make it a little easier when we put stuff back on. Here's the new carburetor. Now the thing you want to do is put on the pieces that we took off of the old one. So like the choke lever, we're going to put that on this one. Also, as well as the mounting bracket, that's going to go here. Get that going in there. And make sure that you've got this lever up here already in the slot that it goes into, because otherwise you're going to have to take it back off of there. Now these new carburetors should come pre-adjusted from the factory to at least a good starting point, but to be honest, there's really not many adjustments on here. On this particular one, there's only an idle adjustment. As you'll recall, this is the bracket that holds the shield on over the carburetor and the muffler. Okay, we got that on there. Now with those pieces on, we're going to start attaching things. So first, I would recommend putting on the linkage. You'll notice that there are several holes that it can go into. You're going to look on your old carburetor, and you can tell the worn out hole, which one it is. In my case, it's this one. So we're going to put it in the same hole on the new one. Alright, with that linkage in there, next I'm going to put on the fuel hose, which is hiding out back here. Push that on there, and then we're going to put the clamp on. Now with those things in place, we're going to swing the carburetor on that bolt that I left in there. Go ahead and put it in there in the right spot. I'm also going to put the other bolt through here on this side. And I've got both of the nuts. Next we're going to put both the nuts on there, tighten them up. That back one's a little tricky to get to. I'd recommend putting it on first, and once you have it snugged up, then you can snug up the one on the outside. The only thing left we have to do is put this little hose back on for the primer bulb. And that's just going to go right there. If any of these hoses were dry rotted, you should replace them at this time. Remember, this is the ground wire we need to connect to the shield once we put it back on. We're almost to the finish line. Alright, I got the shield back on. Everything is back on as you saw before. We got everything hooked up. I guarantee this thing's going to start. I've worked on so many of these things. I know how these things are, and I know what the failure points are. So we're going to start this up, but before I do, if you found this video helpful, please like, leave me a comment, let me know if it worked for you, if it was easy to understand or not. You know, drop something just to let me know you were watching. And if you do this on yours, and you found that I educated you on how to save yourself a lot of money, which is probably $100 plus, feel free to leave me a donation via PayPal. I'll put my link here, and it's also in the description. It's hans.geistifer@gmail.com. Send me a couple bucks. That'll help me to obtain more equipment and the parts I need to make more educational videos so that you can fix your own stuff and save yourself a whole lot of money. Thanks again for watching. If you have friends that have lawnmowers and snowblowers that won't start, even tractors, whatever, send them on my channel. Subscribe, tell them to subscribe. I appreciate you watching. Till next time, this is Hans at Hans Makes It Work.